In the late 19th century, as the United States marched into the age of industry, Birmingham, Alabama, became known as the Magic City. Its soil was rich with coal, limestone, and iron ore, everything needed to forge steel and build an empire. To harness this wealth, in 1882 the towering complex of Sloss Furnaces was constructed. Imagine the scene: colossal smokestacks piercing the sky, flames rising against the night, and the ground trembling with the sound of hammers, machinery, and endless fire. Day and night, the furnaces burned, glowing like the mouth of hell itself. The factory became the beating heart of Birmingham, producing the iron that built skyscrapers, railroads, and bridges across America. But with every empire forged in fire, there is always blood. Sloss was not just a factory, it was a beast that demanded sacrifice. Workers, many of them poor immigrants and African Americans, labored under conditions that were nothing short of inhuman. The heat inside the furnaces could rise to over 120 degrees Fahrenheit, searing skin and blistering lungs. Poisonous gases crept through the air, invisible and deadly, choking men before they could escape. The machinery was relentless, crushing bones with the same ease it crushed stone. The city above celebrated progress, but within the factory walls, progress was paid for in suffering. Each bar of iron carried a hidden weight, the weight of those who toiled, those who bled, and those who never walked out alive. Sloss was not merely a monument to industry. It was a monument to the human lives consumed in its endless fire. The reign of James Slag Wormwood, as the furnaces roared and the city of Birmingham thrived on its endless production of iron, a new figure emerged within the hellish heart of Sloss. His name was James Slag Wormwood, a foreman whose reputation would soon become as infamous as the fiery towers themselves. If Sloss was a monster, then Wormwood was its cruel master, driving men deeper into the flames to keep the beast alive. He was not remembered for his skill or leadership, but for his merciless control. Workers described him as a man who seemed to thrive on the suffering of others. The furnaces demanded constant feeding, and Wormwood ensured it was done at any cost. Men were forced to climb treacherous catwalks, slick with grease, to work dangerously close to molten iron that could consume flesh in seconds, to endure shifts that stretched deep into the night until exhaustion blurred their vision. Many never returned home. It is said Wormwood would scream and curse at the men, pushing them beyond human limits, ignoring their desperate pleas for rest. And when accidents happened, as they did constantly, he blamed the workers themselves. Some whispered that Wormwood had a darker side, that he enjoyed watching fear in the eyes of those he commanded, that he would deliberately place men in peril just to remind them who held the power. Dozens of deaths were recorded under his watch, though rumors suggested the number was far greater. Bodies crushed by machinery. Workers slipping into vats of molten metal. Men collapsing in clouds of toxic gas. For the city above, Sloss was a symbol of progress, but for those inside, it had become a graveyard, and Wormwood, the keeper of that graveyard. To this day, many believe that the spirit of Sloss itself twisted Wormwood into something inhuman, a man no longer ruled by conscience but by fire and cruelty. The furnaces devoured men's bodies. And Wormwood devoured their souls. By 1906, the men who worked beneath Wormwood's iron fist were broken, both in body and spirit. He had become more than just a cruel foreman, he was a figure of terror whispered about in the shadows of the furnaces. Workers no longer spoke of accidents as misfortune, they spoke of them as sacrifices, offerings demanded by Wormwood's insatiable hunger for production. And then came the night when the fire finally claimed its master. According to official records, Wormwood was patrolling one of the highest catwalks of the main furnace. The platform swayed with heat, the metal beneath his boots glowing faintly red from the constant blaze. The air was thick with toxic gas, the kind that made men dizzy and collapse. The report says he lost his footing, stumbled, and fell straight into the molten chamber below, his body consumed instantly by fire, leaving not even a trace of bone. But few believed it was an accident. The workers told a different story, one whispered in hushed voices, passed down through generations. They said Wormwood had pushed too far that night, screaming and lashing out at exhausted men, forcing them into impossible tasks. And in the haze of heat and rage, someone, or perhaps several men, took their revenge. They cornered him on the platform, and with one decisive shove, the tyrant was sent plummeting into the inferno he had so long commanded. There were others who swore it wasn't the workers at all. They claimed that the furnaces themselves had grown tired of their master, that the spirit of Sloss, born of blood, sweat, and endless sacrifice, reached out and pulled Wormwood into the fire. The beast fed on him, one old worker once said, just like it fed on all of us. From that night forward, the men returned to their duties, but the atmosphere had changed. Some claimed they could still hear Wormwood's screams echoing from within the chambers. Others said they saw his figure pacing the catwalks long after his death, watching them, commanding them, never allowing the work to stop. The tyrant was gone, but his shadow was eternal. Wormwood's death was not the end of his reign, it was the beginning of his legend. A legend that said his spirit had fused with the furnaces themselves, ensuring that Sloss would never truly sleep. When the furnaces finally fell silent in 1971, Birmingham celebrated the end of an era. To the outside world, Sloss had done its duty, it had forged steel for nearly a century, and now its great chimneys and rusted towers were left to decay as a monument of industrial glory. But for those who knew the truth, the closing of Sloss did not bring peace. The fire had been extinguished, but something darker lingered in the hollow ruins. Almost immediately, strange stories began to surface. Night guards reported footsteps echoing across the empty catwalks, heavy boots striking the steel platforms though no one was there. Some swore they saw the figure of a man standing in the shadows high above, arms crossed, watching, always watching. His outline would vanish the moment they dared to climb after him. Others told of chilling screams erupting from the furnace pits, long after the flames had gone cold. Workers who had once poured molten iron claimed they could still hear the sizzle of burning flesh, and the cries of men begging for help. One guard said he followed the sound of voices late one night, convinced intruders had entered the site, only to find himself standing alone in front of furnace number 1, the very place where Wormwood had met his fiery end. Paranormal investigators began to flock to Sloss, drawn by its reputation as one of the most haunted industrial sites in America. Their recordings captured mysterious whispers, unexplained bangs, and voices calling out from the depths of the rusted tunnels. Some investigators even claimed to be pushed or scratched by invisible hands, as if Wormwood himself still roamed the catwalks, shoving men into danger, just as he had done in life. Locals began to call it the Factory of Lost Souls. They believed that the spirits of the countless men who died there never truly escaped. Instead, they remained trapped inside the iron skeleton of Sloss, forced to toil eternally under the ghostly command of their cruel overseer. And if you stood in the right place, at the right time, some whispered you could hear the hiss of steam, the clang of metal, and the mournful cries of men still working, slaves to a factory that had long been abandoned by the living. For the city of Birmingham, Sloss became just another historic landmark. But for those who dared to enter its ruins at night, it was something far more sinister, a graveyard where the dead refused to rest, and where the echo of Wormwood's rule had outlived the man himself. Today, Sloss Furnaces stands as a skeletal monument over Birmingham, its towering chimneys and rusted iron frames looming like sentinels of a forgotten hell. By day, it is a relic of industry, a reminder of human ambition and ingenuity. But by night, it transforms into something far darker. The furnaces, long cold and silent, awaken in the whispers of the past. Shadows move where no one walks. Footsteps echo on metal platforms that have not borne a living worker in decades. And some swear they can see the figure of Wormwood himself, still pacing the catwalks, eyes glowing with a fiery hunger that death could not quench. The city has left the factory behind, but the factory has not left the city. Sloss is a place where time is frozen, where the pain and terror of the past are etched into every brick, every pipe, every decaying beam. It is not merely abandoned, it is alive in the memory of those who suffered, and in the fear of those who dare to enter its domain. And now, as you watch this story unfold, remember this: the past is never truly gone. It waits, patient and dark, in places like Sloss. And if you want to uncover more of these terrifying, abandoned places where history refuses to stay buried, you need to subscribe to Abandoned Earth. Join us, and walk with us into the shadows where the living fear to tread. The stories are real. And they are waiting for you.